All right, folks, welcome to the Get Off Our Lawn show. We have with us once again for part two of the Steve Lisi interview. Folks, Steve was kind enough to regroup with us and regale us with his stories from back in high school because we had a little technical snafu last time. So we're gonna do it again. So the last
story, right?
Yes. The last we left Steve, he was in the emergency room. The doctor had drawn his blood, said he was doing much better. That was at 10 o'clock in the afternoon. Take it from there, Steve.
I mean, when I had the COVID.
When you had the COVID, yes, that was where we left off. You were still in the emergency. You were still in the emergency room. The doctor said you were doing a little bit better after he took blood from you at 5 o'clock in the morning and got back to you at 10 o'clock.
Right. Well, he said that I had shown some improvement with the medication that they had given me, the oxygen, but he said I had a long way to go. And that was a much relief because the night before, I was afraid to even go to sleep.
Oh, I can imagine.
I was in so much pain and fear, especially when the doctor had said he didn't know if I was going to make it or not. Excuse me. And so from that point on, the next 6 days, they had me on IV medication, the remdesivir, blood thinner, antibiotics, and steroids. And each day they toned down the oxygen. Started out at 4 liters, and then second to the last day, they put me on room air to see how I would do breathing on my own. And the doctor was great. I should have looked up his YouTube video, but he very, I say gruff, but also compassionate, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And he said that we're going to make a combined decision of when you're going to go home. And I thought that was really neat. But, he says, I can tell you that you look fine medically, but only you know how you feel and if you're able to go home or not. And I thought that was really a whole different approach of, I think they know everything. Mm-hmm. And when he came back in, he says, how do you feel? And I said, I think I need to stay another day. And he said, okay. And he ordered another round of remdesivir. And the next day I felt much better. And they he said I could be released, and I didn't get out till like 4 in the afternoon anyway. But the amazing thing was the bill. It was $174,000 for 6 days in the hospital.
But just that $174,000 though. Yeah. Good Lord.
Yeah. Was that the extra? That was the extra day that pushed it over the limit.
I guess. I said, geez, I could have gone on a round the world cruise for less than this. But and then the ambulance was $2,500. My brother said, geez, that was an awful expensive Uber ride. But thank goodness for my insurance, and it covered it. Yeah. Well, I didn't really need any medical attention in the ambulance. The doctor just said that I was in no condition to drive because of so little oxygen in my blood. So yeah, that was it's no joke. I'm telling you, I've never been so sick in my life. Seriously. Did any of you or anyone close to y'all get sick with it?
We lost a family friend in Delaware. Same thing. She had pneumonia, COVID pneumonia, and she did pass away. Yep.
I know a handful of folks that had likewise passed away, and another handful that have had reasonable recoveries, and a couple with the long-term stuff. So, the brain fog thing seems to be a real thing too. Getting back up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
So when you got home,
what was with me? If that's just older.
Well, that was kind of it. One of my buddies was an IT guy, and he had a brain fog, and he was trying to remember how to do work, right?
So how was that first day back home?
Uh-oh.
I think we're freezing up here.
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, am I losing you? Or are you losing me? Or what's going on?
I don't know.
There we go. All right. All right. Yeah. So how was your first day back home?
I thought that I felt great because of the medication, living better through medication.
Mhm.
And started doing things around the house. And very quickly, God kicked my ass. And I was exhausted and had to lay down and take a 4-hour nap.
Oh, yeah. I
Yes.
bet.
And it took me about 3 months to recover completely.
I was going to ask, how long did it take? And are you back to where you think you were?
Yes.
Pre-COVID?
Took me three months to get over it at work and walking around the office and the facility. I'd walk from one end to the other and you'd think I'd run 100 miles. I was out of breath and just couldn't even move.
Yes.
My director told me to sit down and stay still, but of course I didn't listen.
Of course not.
Yeah, it took me 3 months. It took me 3 months to feel back to my old self, and
Yep.
I'm back. I'd say 100% now.
Wow. Wow.
Yep. Well, we're glad to have you back.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're glad you're with us, Steve.
Glad to be anywhere.
Yeah, I'm glad I got an extension on my lease for sale or lease.
That's right.
For sale or
Sale or
lease.
lease.
And Steve, just to revisit, who came up with that phrase again?
Dave Jackson.
That's right. That's
The
right.
one
Dave
and
Jackson.
only.
That's right.
The one and only.
You locked onto that like no other.
Yeah. Well, I have to say I was laughing several times randomly after your story about Bender in our Mrs. Davidson class when she got so. I don't remember that, but man, when you told that the other day, I was just hysterical. Every once in a while, I just break out laughing, and people looking at me like, "What?" I was like, "Oh, a friend of mine reminded me of something that happened
100 years ago."
She lost her mind on Joel. That was a day. That was a day. So cool. Well, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Speaking of old times, have you either one of you stayed in contact or know what Kenny Johnson's up to?
I do not.
I do not. Sorry to say.
Yeah. He was a key one in our class.
Well, that's true. You're right. You're right. And I think Dave, didn't Pam locate Joel at one point in time? Wasn't he like in Cornell?
Well, many years ago, I think we touched base somewhere like LinkedIn or one of those googly search things, and he popped up at Cornell.
Right.
He's still in the witness protection program.
Well, I think he ran most of the nuclear reactors at Cornell.
Oh, okay.
So,
which would totally fit, by the way.
That's right. And so you're not supposed to find it. No, but
yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
So Dave and I had made a list of stuff that we touched on before that we didn't get documented before. So I know we have to hear a few things. We got to hear the Mrs. Broadwell story again, because that was a classic. So we got to do that. But before we do that, in case you didn't hear, Chuck Hanley passed away a couple weeks ago.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So I didn't know if he was my, if not my most favorite teacher in the top two. So I don't know if you had any classes with Mr. Hanley, or if you want to speak on that at all.
Well, I had him he was part of the history trio.
Yep.
With Mr. Whitehead and Mr. Head and Mr. Hanley, and I think there was one other guy, but I can't remember now. But he also launched the what was it, WDCS?
WDCS. Yep.
Yeah.
Which I was a cameraman.
Yeah, and I did some camera work as well at some of the basketball and football games.
Yep.
And
I remember that.
He was the pioneer of that whole thing.
Yep.
And just a real fun guy, real laid back, but a fun guy. How old was he when he passed?
71.
Oh, wow. And what happened? Just natural causes?
It just said after a long illness.
Where did he live? In Dryden or where?
I think I read the obituary was Ithaca. I believe, but I'm not.
Oh,
Don't quote me on that.
He was still in the
Yeah,
air.
he was still locally. Yeah, he was still
Oh,
local.
okay. Wow.
Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed his classes and him as a mentor.
Yeah, yeah, super guy. So just a quick story. I know this is your time, but quick WDCS Chuck Hanley story. The only award I ever got in high school, where they have the big award ceremony every year, with the sports awards and all that kind of stuff. Chuck Hanley told me I had to be at the auditorium at 7 o'clock that night, and I had baseball practice. I said, well, I'm going to show up dirty, but I thought I was just kidding around or wanted me to do something or tape something or whatever. And I showed up in my baseball gear to the auditorium and for this, this big ceremony. And he gets up there, he does a presentation, and he's got this slideshow of we had taped, and we used TC3's switcher gear and stuff, and we had done one of the plays. I forget what play it was, Oklahoma or something. And I was in a camera up on the loft, up on top of the auditorium, over the stage, doing the down shot. And he presented me an award for being a cameraman for WDCS and braving the scaffolding to do a shot for that play. And I had to come down on stage in my dirty baseball gear and get presented an award by Chuck Hanley in front of all these people in suits. Yeah, I've still got it. I got it in a box here someplace in my basement. It's crazy. I still got it. It was such a great moment. Such a great moment. So, anyways, yeah, Chuck's gone.
Gosh. That brings back a memory too, but we won't go there. So.
Yeah. So I want
to have a whole series just about talking about our teachers.
No, we could, but I and again, before we get to the great Mrs. Broadwell story, because that was so good, I have a couple questions that we didn't talk about last time. I want to talk about the Lion's Den. Weren't you a pioneer in the Lion's Den? Weren't you like one of the originals?
Yeah.
Original cast and crew of the Lion's Den?
Yes.
Was that the start of your merchandising career?
Well, I think the start of my merchandising career was when I was born, because my initials are SML, small, medium, and large.
How perfect is that? That's great.
Well, my dad was always in retail. He was store manager, and then he was in buying and stuff like that. He worked for Loblaws, grocery stores, and then he worked for Phase Drug. And it just was an interest that I had. And the Lion's Den was pretty cool, and it taught us everything from merchandising to buying to accounting, to investment. So it was a great opportunity. Mrs. Hafler was a great teacher as well.
That was her name. I could not remember her name earlier today. That's it.
What was it? What was the name?
Mrs. Hafler, Mary Hafler, and Mary Streeter. Mary Streeter was her cohort.
Yeah. Hey, folks, just so you know, in 1979 and 1980, well, hang on. Did you start before that, or was it our senior year, or was our junior year you guys started that?
Junior,
yeah.
Junior,
so, folks, if you wanted to buy a pencil or an eraser or a notebook or anything like that, you probably picked it up from this man right here in the Lion's Den.
We also had Pop-Tarts and candy, remember?
We had candy, yeah. You had Pop-Tarts and candy, yep. That was quite the treat back then.
Yeah, I was going to say there weren't many vending machines in the cafeteria at that point.
No, there wasn't any.
That's what I'm saying.
I go along with not many, yeah.
Just being kind.
Yes. So yeah, that was so. I remember when it first fired up. Was there like a select crew, or was it the business class that got that thing fired up, or whose dream child was that? Was it the students, or was it hers? Was it Mrs. Hafler's or Mrs. Streeter's?
I think it was Hafler and Streeter, and it was a class. It was retail management.
Oh.
And the students of the class had, their traditional learning on retail math, and all that. And then the store was the practical portion of it.
Yeah, it was the lab portion.
Correct.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, Dave, I know. Again, I want to hold off on the Broadwell story, but I got to ask about your time as class president. What years was that?
It was 9, 10, and 11.
So before we get into the big coup, what was the life of a class president? What did you guys actually do? What was the format? What were the votes? What did you guys decide? What affected me? What happened with all that stuff? What was the deal?
Well, our biggest goal was raise money for our senior trip. That
Oh,
was
okay.
the whole function and goal of the class officers.
Okay.
And what really stimulated me for our idea to go to Florida to Disney World was when I was between 8th and 9th grade. I went to California to visit my relatives, and they took me to Disneyland.
Mhm.
And I'd never been to either park. And I was so excited and said, you know what, we're going to go to Disney World for our senior trip. And Lang and McLean first, and then Lang were like, you're out of your mind. And I'm like, no, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And
Was that because of expense or something else?
I think it was expense, and just everybody always went to New York City. Every senior class went to New York City.
Correct.
And,
Correct.
you know, I was like,
All right.
we're better than that. We're not going to New York City. And you know, we did all kinds of fundraising.
Yep.
And one of the biggest things, like I guess I've gone full circle, was I found in the bowels of the Sea Wing, I don't know if you remember, way in the back, it was like a dirt cellar.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I found an old popcorn machine. And I said, we should do popcorn at the basketball games. And Lang is out, says, you're out of your mind. I said, no, we don't have any refreshments there. Let's do that, and we'll get soda. And I made arrangements with Coca-Cola, and they delivered cases of Coke. I think we got 24 cases at a time. And of course, no one would work it. So I ended up working it with one or two extra people in the cafeteria during halftime.
Yep.
And we made good money on it. Then we did our other things like the candles and all that other.
Well, I remember the oranges, the orange sales.
Yeah, the wrapping paper and all that stuff.
Yep, the wrapping paper. Yep.
And my goal was for us to fly down. And the Board of Education in 9th grade said, no, we're not going to allow, or not 9th grade, our junior year said, we're not going to allow you to fly down. If the plane would crash, you know, we'd have all kinds of liabilities. So
the train was a better idea. Yeah. Okay.
There's no liability with a train, right? Let's do Amtrak right into the.
Yeah. So we ended up making a deal with the Board of Education because it was going to take longer to go by train. And I said, okay, well, we'll be able to see the countryside as well. So I think that's part educational. So the Board of Education.
You are such a wheeler and dealer, I swear.
Yeah. So the Board of Education agreed to pay for the bus to and from New York and the train. And all the money we raised was for the hotel and the tickets for Disney World.
Wow.
And Phil and Sherry and
Lori
Mm-hmm.
took us over the finish line when I lost. So, but it was a great trip. We were the first class to ever go to Florida for our senior trip. And then
I didn't know that.
I didn't realize that. I thought everybody was always going to the beach.
Well, those were their own personal side trips to Myrtle Beach, but the senior class always went to New York City.
Yeah.
So then when we were at Disney World, I said, you know what, I want to work here someday. And, you know, everybody was like, you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'd love to do the accounting here. I know what, I never looked up that video that I told you PM Magazine did for me. I'll find it and send it. But then when I was at TC3 and was on academic probation, that's when they put the sign up in the library saying, hey, Mickey's coming to town.
Yep.
And out of 30 students, I was one of the 5 chosen to go down to Disney World. And the rest is history. After I come back, I finished, graduated, went back down and made a career of it.
So what do you think precipitated the changing of the guard class for the class presidency junior to senior year? How did Phil and the gang win that? What happened there?
Well, I think they paid off Steve Pluer to be the sign of Zorro on all my signs.
When you say that.
Done.
So I blame Steve Pluer for the whole thing.
That is so great.
I honestly don't know. I was shocked that I lost. I don't know.
Was it by a landslide, or they just eke it out?
I don't remember, to be honest.
Now, were the votes along party lines, or could you vote for each? Could you vote for each of the officers?
No, they were tickets.
Yeah.
It was the group. Yeah.
All right. So you were voting for the wow.
Yeah, you couldn't
Yeah.
have a hodgepodge. You couldn't,
You couldn't mix and match, huh?
you couldn't mix and match, right?
Interesting.
Wow.
I guess the other candidates on my ticket were not. I don't even remember who I was running with.
That was my next question.
Quite frankly, I don't
wow.
remember the elections myself.
It must have been a bunch of has-beens.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Our apologies to any has-been that might be mentioned in this video.
That ship sailed a long time ago.
I don't remember any of the elections except that one, the senior year. That's the only one I remember, because it's this of Steve Ford's, chicanery in the hallways. That's all I remember.
To be honest with you, I think it was a combination of Steve Pluert and Mrs. Broadwell that made me lose.
Oh, good transition.
Now there's a segue right there.
That's a segue right there. All right, let's segue.
Okay. So I'm sitting in our junior year American literature class. I believe it was 6th period. And Phil Bakke and I are sitting in the back of the room, of course, probably with our chairs tipped up against the wall.
Yep.
And Mrs. Broadwell asked me a question. And I very politely said, "I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I wasn't paying attention." And she said, if you paid as much attention to this class as you do your personal life, you'd be a lot better off. And I said, well, if this class was as interesting as my personal life, maybe I would. The whole class was hysterical. And she said, I think you need to go to the principal's office. And I said, okay. So I picked up my books and I went down to the principal's office. And, I'm walking down the hall and people are like, what? Other teachers are like, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to the principal's office. They looked at me like, because I was not a troublemaker at all.
Yeah.
Here's the class president.
Right.
Yeah.
Down to
Right.
the principal's office.
So, and student council president at the time.
Oh, man.
So I go in and the two ladies are sitting there and they're like, what are you doing? And I said, Mrs. Broadwell sent me down to see Mr. Stefano. And they said, well, he's out right now. And I said, well, I'll just go in his office and wait. And you walked into his office and to the left was his desk and a window. And then in front of his desk was a door that went out to the hallway to the entrance. Remember that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I just sit down in his chair and I put my feet up on his windowsill and I'm just sitting there waiting for him to come in. And he come in from the hallway, the outside door, and he opens the door and he's like, Lisi, what are you doing in here? And I said, Mrs. Broadwell sent me down here. And he's like, why? So I told him and he got this smirk on his face. He's like, Lisi, now I got to deal with her. He's like, go sit in the senior lounge. Well, I go out there and I'm sitting like parallel with the hallway, and it was about what time was 6th period over? About 1:30 maybe, I think.
Sure.
So about 1:25, Mrs. Broadwell comes marching up the hill, the slope, and she sees me there, and she goes into the office and is talking, I guess, with Mr. Stefano, and the bell rings and classes changed. I had 7th period off, and she goes marching down the hallway. If looks could kill, I'd be dead, And then, the more I think about it, I think she did have something to do with me losing, because we had our regents that year for English Lit. And the objective I did fine on, and she failed me on the essay.
Mhm.
And I was pissed because Mr. Ventura told me what, had happened. And she was the department head for the English department. So Stefano called me and Ventura called me and told me and said that I was going to have to take summer school because I couldn't take English Lit or American English Lit and senior year English and have enough, time to pay attention and take the regents. So I went to summer school, and every day I sat in that conference room across from the office studying regencies. And I said to Mr. Stefano, I want you and Mr. Ventura and Mrs. I forgot her name again, the real small, thin girl, began with a B. Broadwater?
Boardman.
This
is Boardman.
To check my Regents test. So Stefano agreed. Mr. Head was in on it too. And I told him that it was a conspiracy, that she hated me because of what happened. And
did they believe you? Did they believe you?
Yeah, because they all graded the exam. I mean, not to brag, but I wasn't a troublemaker, And when you fail someone on an essay, it's purely subjective.
Yeah, correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she couldn't fail me on the objective or multiple choice one. So yeah. And then it was kind of like the running joke with Stefano and I. And when we did graduate and I went up there and shook his hand, I said, are both those bastards in there? And he said, yes, they are. And I said, good. Meaning our regular diploma and my Regents diploma.
Regents diploma. Yep.
And then we stayed best friends. Thank God for Facebook. When he retired and moved to Colorado, we would stay in touch on Facebook. And then when he passed away, Ellen told me about it and stuff. So I was pretty devastated.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was a nice guy.
That's awesome. Yeah, he really was. How much time do we have, Dave?
We have 8 minutes, and I just sent another invite for a second half.
Just saw it come across my phone.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and remind me when we get there to hit the button again.
Hit the button, yes. I know I don't have, because I'm on my phone this time, so I can't bring up pictures. But I know, Dave, do you have those pictures handy?
Which pictures?
So Steve in various phases of life in school.
Oh, probably. Let's see here.
I want to add some context to some of these pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, the famous haircut one I remember.
Yeah, but I found it fascinating that you always had your face covered. I mean, your senior picture, you were easily top 3 of the most dapper of the senior pictures. Easily, if not the most dapper. I mean, your pose is perfect. You had the right clothes, the right tie, the whole 9 yards. But in your other pictures, you got the hand over the face. You're looking down. I'm like, okay, he's not shy. So
it was the photographer. They were terrible. Well, there's my whole face.
There you go. You're looking down again, though. You're at the cash register, putting some money in the put some money in the till there. All right.
Yeah.
All right. You want the next picture?
Yeah.
All right. Oops! Look at that one.
Oh, hang on.
That one
sideways there.
That has a counterclockwise, and so let's see if we can.
Yeah.
There was the Lions Den crew.
Den crew. Yep.
Look at Robert Klein there.
Oh wow! Look at Rob Klein. Look at Bob. Look at him.
And Dave Barber up there
with his hair, man. Yep. Oh, and look at that. There's Toby hiding back there too.
Toby's hiding back there. Yeah.
Right. And this is Mrs. Streeter over here, right?
No, that's Mrs. Hafler.
That's Mrs. Hafler. Yep.
All right.
All right. Next pick.
Oh, what? Do.
This was the student council president. That's myself.
We got you, Joe Kaz, and I recognize about all the girls' names.
Sue's Page.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Super. Yep, that's a page. Yep.
Yep.
Kareem Kataya.
There you
There
go.
we go. There
Now-
we go.
Was this the ticket for 12th grade as well for senior year?
No, because the two girls are underclassmen.
Underclassmen, yeah.
So how did they get to be in this picture then?
It's
Student council. Student
Oh, this
council.
is student council. Oh, my mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
We
I
were
mean-
all encompassing in student council.
Yeah, well, that was 9 through 12. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
And then
The classic looking away picture. There was Steve.
I don't know.
What's
Sort of
classic?
handsome there.
Yep. No, you're working it. What organization is this?
This is the Lions Den crew.
Yeah, I was gonna
Lions
say-
and Crew again. Okay.
Senior
Yep, all right.
years, and back in the corner is Dave Barber and Matt.
Oh
Lang.
yeah. Okay.
Matt.
All right.
Yep. And isn't that Pam Odell and Nancy Bashir, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Pam. I just saw Pam Odell this past 2 days ago.
Yep. There you go. You can remind her of that.
I can.
All right. Now,
Oh, this was the junior year. See, yeah, these are the has-beens.
So let me see what I can do here. We got Kim Vos,
yep.
got Brenda Murray,
Yep.
Yeah,
and we got Miss Thomas.
Yep.
correct.
Whose first name I can't remember.
What's that?
I can't remember her first name.
Lori.
Lori Thomas. There we go.
That's what I thought.
Lori. Yeah. But somebody said something funny there to make Steve do that, or he's rubbing his nose. One or the other.
I was just saying, oh my God. No, maybe it was that the girls didn't want to do it anymore for their senior year because they were all cheerleaders.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's true.
They
Yeah.
probably had many activities.
Yeah.
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 All right. And I think there's one more.
There it is.
Save the best for last.
They're the
Okay,
best
yeah.
for last.
Yep. Oh, hang on.
Seventh grade yearbook committee.
Okay, so I'm gonna, even though I don't know why I didn't send that picture. Tell me if you can see.
I think
David,
that picture should belong to Devo.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
be. You could be the fifth
You
Devo.
got the bowl cut going on, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't tell where I'm aiming on my phone. Can you see the
All right.
picture
Hang
where
on.
my finger is?
Let me stop sharing here. And then
Okay.
you can
Let
go
me see
back.
where. Let's see.
Yep.
Senior
See how,
picture. Yeah.
see how dapper he looks here? Look at that man. Look at that
He's
guy.
dapper.
He's working
Yeah,
it.
You had that on the beginning of the sample video.
I
you
did.
sent me.
Beginning of the video. Yep,
Yeah.
I sure
Now,
did.
Dave,
Yep.
while you got that open, what was his class prophecy?
I think we discussed that last time. It was pretty much he was going to do exactly what he says, sell stuff. But hang on,
All right.
he was going to market stuff.
I have old age syndrome. What?
Yeah, no. You're. Let me get to it here. Do.
I should have prepped it. Oh,
No, it's all right. Will be the most successful businessman in the world, and plan to someday corner the stock market and make $1 million.
there you go.
And there we have it.
He was the Elon Musk
I
of
was on the
Dryden
stock
High.
market, but yeah.
Yeah, Elon Musk. Yeah, there you go. There's an analogy.
Right.
So what do you what's your, I mean, I know you talked before about, you had generalities about your favorite times in school, but what are some of your fondest memories back in those days?
Well, the finest times, I would say, the great friendships that we had, and obviously they were meaningful and lasting over 40 years here.
Mhm.
The crazy things that we did that only administrators today would love to have to deal with, like jumping out the window into the snowbank from the second floor,
Right.
stenciling our names on the parking lot so we would have our own private parking. Hiding the tools of the shop teacher.
All right. Well, do me a favor, Dave, Steve, hold that thought. We got to go to the second link, right? Right, Dave? That what
Yep.
we do?
All
right.
right, we got a minute and a half, so we're gonna end this right here.
So the other part, besides the shenanigans we did with the teachers, hiding their tools, the shop teachers, antagonizing Paul Lang. I can't remember who was that really small, petite, curly, frizzy hair math teacher.
Math teacher. That wasn't Dave McLean.
No, no.
Math teacher or English teacher?
Math.
Gosh, you lost me on that one.
Also driving Mr. Hugo crazy. Come on, people, wake up.
Right. Banging on the board. You're not going to absorb this by osmosis.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, his very particular way of doing homework assignments and tests.
Everything, Georgia.
Yeah.
Truth is really dropping some AF.
The other thing was Mrs. Lieberman and her crazy biology class.
Well, Dave
Mr.
tortured that poor
Shrew-
woman.
Yeah.
Had the world's record for detentions in that class.
He tortured that gal.
But she probably adored you. That's why she put you on detention so much. Cleaning the beakers.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't remember if I even told this story, but there were, do you remember the diabetes section?
No.
Does this have to do with urine? This have to do with urine?
It did. Everybody had to bring in a sample, right?
Yes.
So everybody had their little. The threat was, of course, bring in your samples, or she pulls out a 5-gallon jug. You're going to be using mine. So she'd been peeing in like a jug for like a month, And so she's like, you bring in your samples or you're using mine. So one of the many detention tasks was to, how should we say, empty out the refrigerator in the room that was between chemistry and biology and clean all that stuff between. That was the particular incident where I got to clean the refrigerator out. And I must say that there were plenty of soap bubbles to go around.
I was going to say that also lends new meaning to hazmat suits.
Oh my gosh.
I'm telling you.
Ball walks in and he just about lost it because there were so many bubbles.
Wow.
Mimi, there's bubbles everywhere.
Did you do any practical jokes, Steve? Did you do anything? I mean, really nutty?
Oh my gosh. All right.
No, the stupidest thing I ever did was I was out sick I had shingles, and I was out for like a week and a half or something. And Mr. Winter's class, Earth
Another
Science,
great teacher.
yeah,
Great teacher.
and I was, yes. And walked around with a pointer and would slam it down on the desk and scare the hell out of me, right?
Yeah.
And I was in a hurry to get back to play practice football, but I had to take this test before I could go. And he left the room, and I look over, and the test is on his desk, the answer key. So I wrote down all the answers, and he said to come and get them when I was done in the teacher's lounge, so he would come and correct it, and I could go to practice.
6 minutes later.
Right, exactly. So I go get him, and he comes down, and he's like, wow. He said, you must have really studied. I said, yes, sir. So he starts going, he pulls out another answer key.
Oh.
I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like, wrong. And he's like, I thought you said you studied. And I was like, I thought I did. So he goes to leave the room. He says, you can't go to practice. So he goes to leave the room. And I said, Mr. Winter? And he's like, yeah. I said, I got to tell you something. And he's like, what? And I said, I cheated on the test. He started laughing, how he goes, how did you cheat? You got everything wrong.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I was in such a hurry to go to practice. I saw the answer key on your desk there, and I just copied it. Well, he just started off with that laugh of his, and he's like, "So you learned your lesson, huh, my friend?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Well, you know what?" He goes, "I appreciate you being honest." And he said, "I'll let you go to practice, but tomorrow you're going to come in and you're going to take the test again. And I have another one." He said, "I have 4 different tests because I know you guys tell each other the answers." So the next day I took the test and I passed it. But that was the most embarrassing thing, to admit that I cheated taking a test and got them all wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I actually cheated in Mr. Lang's class, which is the class I just totally just tested. Everything was
Yes.
rote memory. Yeah, just memorize everything. Everything was
Yes.
just memorized. And I was just too late. I mean, I did some, but I was just too lazy to just keep memorizing. And I got to the point where I was so fed up with that class. When we knew it was going to happen the next day, and we always say, take out a blank piece of paper. We're going to have I want you to spout off the Crusades. Write down all the Crusades or something like that. Well, somehow I knew what he was going to test the next day. I must, or he told us. And I went home. I took white paper, just regular notebook paper. I took a pen and I scribed all the answers. I just indented the paper, the entire thing, so you can only see it in just the right light. You had to have it just the right light so you could see the lines.
Oh my gosh.
And I had the entire test written out. Just boom, boom, boom. All the bullet points. Boom, 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 boom. Brother, I did not get caught. I think that's the only test I honestly passed.
Wow.
In class.
As long as we're fessing up, right?
Okay.
So, I took chemistry and physics from Roland Ball. And we had most of the tests were multiple choice. And he allowed us, not everybody was stinking rich, lousy with money. So not everybody had a calculator, right?
Right.
So we were allowed to share calculators. So you would take the test and you would write down what you knew. And then you would type into your calculator like 4.0 or something like that, right? Didn't know what it was. And you would pass your calculator to the next guy over, and he would look at the question number and put in 4.3. And that was your multiple choice selection on the test. So you had question 4, answer 3 was that. So this was all going swimmingly. And there was one point, and just to bring Joel Bender into it, I believe he had like 6 calculators on his desk at one point.
Of course he did.
Everybody was passing their calculators to Joel Bender. And so, and I'll say nobody noticed.
Wow. Wow.
But it was like one of those things. You're halfway through the test, you look over, he's got a collection of calculators. And you would pass them back and they'd have, the answer dot, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That's crazy. And logistically a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, you'd have these groups of calculators moving around the room, right?
Right.
And so
you had to make sure you got the right one back.
Well, because there was a code, right? You had the question number, a dot, and then the answer.
Yeah.
You could keep it straight. If it was a 0, nobody knew the answer. But if there was a number there,
I got you. Okay.
If there was a number there, then you knew what the answer was.
Wow.
Actually, that's pretty ingenious, actually.
Yeah.
As long as it was the correct answer.
Yeah, that's true. Someone could really ruin your day.
You could all miss number 9, right? It was like
right.
The entire class, number 9's right out.
Oh, who was the instructor that used to always grade on a curve? Can't remember who that was.
I don't know.
I don't remember curves.
I don't either.
But my other favorite, not that I ever had him other than for driver's ed, was Mr. Struglia.
I was just going to ask. I had Mr. Struglia too.
Well, there's 1,000 stories about him in the hallway outside C13.
Yeah.
Entry and exit, in the morning.
Yep.
But he was he was a very motivating teacher to the lesser fortunate students,
Yeah.
and just was always positive reinforcement back in the day, and looking out for the best in everyone. And I was shocked to find out that he had committed suicide.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Yeah, I actually worked for him like 9th and 10th and 11th grade in the cafeteria. I was a guy, he paid me a quarter, and at the end of the lunch hour, I pushed in all the chairs before the next lunch hour came in.
oh,
He'd give me a quarter.
Hey, give me a quarter.
I got a
wow.
full quarter.
Man.
Full
And
quarter.
he
Every
was
time I
a
did that.
music teacher before he taught science, right?
Yeah,
I didn't know.
yeah.
I didn't know until Pam told me that. I had no idea.
Yeah. So I mean, the visions I always have is of him playing random instruments outside of C13. Mostly it was
Yes.
trumpet,
Really?
and yeah. Well, in the morning when you'd be coming in, he'd be there playing the Saints Go Marching In or whatever it was, and you'd be coming into the school, and here's Strugula.
I don't remember that.
And
Yeah.
he
I'm bummed.
always
I'm
yelling,
bummed.
always yelling motivational statements, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kids, you get married, you get a mother-in-law.
Yeah. Well, I remember in driver's ed, because I was the first one he picked up in the morning. He always wanted me to beep at everything. Hey, there's a tree. Make sure you beep at it. Beep. There's a stop sign. Make sure you beep at it. Beep. I had to beep everything. But we always went for ice cream. And Steve Heffron was one of in my driver's ed class with me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
And we went and had ice cream at the Dairy Queen in Cortland. He was a great teacher. He was a great teacher. Remember, he used to call tires those 4 little patties. Those 4 little patties.
Yep, 4 little patties on the road, right?
Yep.
It's like, and if you're parking on the side of the road and you open the door, cars coming down the road, let them take it off.
Yep.
Don't step out.
Don't step out. He was a great guy.
I wonder if
But I did see him get pissed off once, and
oh yeah, when he was mad, he was mad.
I remember him dragging. I don't care if I say his name or not. I remember him dragging Mark Peach down the hallway, literally by his Adam's apple. Down the hallway.
Yep.
I mean, literally, and just at the top of his lungs, saying, "You will not disrespect me. You will never do that." I mean, and Mark was just gasping for air. And then when he got to the end of the hallway, Mark did something, and Stu picked him up right by the throat, right up against a wall, not against a locker, up against the wall. His feet were just doing this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can understand it, because when people are nice and caring and understanding and they're taken advantage of, that just pushes their buttons,
Yep. What do you remember? Did you go on the senior, what was that called, Steve? The secret trip we went on right before graduation, when we got in the buses and went to the bowling alley. What was that called? Do you remember that little secret trip thing?
Well, it was
after graduation.
Yeah, it was after the prom, wasn't it?
I don't remember if it was after the prom or not. I remember it was right before we graduated. No, it was before, when they all put us on the bus and they drove around. So we didn't know where we were going, and we opened up the Ides lanes in Ithaca.
Yeah, either roller skate or boom.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
And then our senior party, they took us to Song Mountain. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't have any memory of those. I went to Ides because we skated.
Then
I
I
don't
bowled
remember Song Mountain. That's
because I caught when we were going. I don't remember how I caught when we were going. So being the bowler that I am, I said, you know what? I'm going to take my bowling ball with me. And my mom was on the bus. And she goes, David, take that bowling ball back. You have no idea where we're going. I had to take the bowling ball back to the car. I knew where we were going.
Yeah.
No, it was a great time in our lives, and nothing but great memories of Dryden. I'd do it all over again.
Yep. I agree. I agree.
But what's really sad is how the place changed. The horrible things that happened there after we left.
Yeah.
It was just heartbroken. And then how large the school has become as well. When I was there the last time. I can't believe how huge it is. I wonder if they still have the Lions Den though, or did
I
they?
I was wondering that as well.
If they rolled a rock in front of it like Jesus when he
Yeah. Put that back in the corner.
I've
Right.
not been in the building. I've only been by the building, but I haven't been in the building since we graduated.
Oh,
Oh wow. Yeah, I went back for one of our 23 unit and one they took us somebody from the high school took us on a tour. Some student took us on a tour.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember people saying they had opened up the buildings for different groups coming through.
Yeah. Wow.
What do you know
So-
about it?
So what else you got, Steve, before we close up shop here? Anything else you want to share? Anything you want to
Oh.
ask us? What you
oh
got?
yeah, I forgot to tell you. So I've come full circle with the popcorn wagon. I don't
Yeah,
know.
we,
yeah,
need,
yeah.
we need a popcorn story.
Yeah.
Update us.
Well, how this started was my mom went into the hospital for planned surgery and kind of went sideways after the surgery. She had ended up getting sepsis and MRSA in the PICC line they put in her arm.
Mhm.
So that they removed it from her arm and put it up in her clavial or subclavial vein there, or artery vein.
The neck.
Right. However, they made a mistake and she was complaining that it hurt. And the doctor came in and said, everything is fine. You know, they took an x-ray, said it's fine. That was on December 20th of 2010. And for 2 days, she was complaining of pain. And one morning I went in and she's like, Steve, help me, help me. And I'm like, Mom, you've got all these wires and tubes. I can't, hold on to you. So I went and got the nurses. They came in, gave her a shot. Boom, she went out like a light. So another day went by and I said, what's going on? They said, oh, vital signs are fine. We don't know what's wrong with her. Of course, all the attending doctors are gone because it's Christmas,
Mhm.
So December 24th, I threw a fit and I said, I want a doctor in here now. So they finally found a doctor. He comes in and he looks at my mother and says, there's something not right. And I said, really? No kidding. I could have told you that 2 days ago. So fast forward, they come back after 4 hours and said, yeah, they put the line into an artery, not a vein. And if we pull it out, she could bleed out. So we're going to have to do surgery. Fast forward, they do surgery. She goes into her room. I go home. Next morning, I go, did they call me? They did call me at 2 a.m. and said, we need your permission to do a CT of her head. Her pupils are fixed and dilated. I didn't know what that meant. So I said, sure, do whatever you have to do. I went back to the hospital Christmas morning. They said, I'm sorry, you're never going to recognize your mother. She's had 2 strokes.
Oh,
So I flipped out. Yeah. And fast forward another week, and I had called back to Atlanta because I'd been gone a month. And they called me and said, we're going to have to either put your mother into assisted or nursing home because she's never going to recover. And I said, no, I'm the medical advocate. Just go ahead and take her off the machines. And they said, no, we can't do that. You have to be here. So I flew back up to Rochester, had the priest there and everything. They took her off. And she lived from 6 o'clock that night until like 3 a.m. And so the next day I went back to the hospital and I said, I want an autopsy. And they said, we don't have to do one. She died in the hospital. So I got a private pathologist, and I'm glad I did, but I'm sorry I did, because reading an autopsy, it gave me nightmares for 3 months because they basically chop you up and weigh everything and all that. But the good thing is they found the tip of the PICC line in her brainstem. When they took it out, they're supposed to measure the line just like when they put it in to make sure nothing like that happens.
They got it all out. Yeah.
Right. And it broke off and it caused the clot that gave her the stroke. So she was 68 years old. And so then I got a medical malpractice lawyer. And not only was it a malpractice lawsuit, it was a product liability lawsuit. my dad, we found out, had Parkinson's, and my mother was covering up from all of us and taking care of him. So he ended up, tipping over basically, and we had to put him in a nursing home. And I was filing the lawsuit in his name to take care of him. And no one can ever make me believe that they didn't drag their feet, because nothing was done for 3 years.
Mhm.
Shortly after he passed away, and I had to call the lawyers and say, my dad has passed away, we need to change the documents, that now I'm suing on part of the estate as opposed to for my father. And about 3 months later, they said, oh, well, the hospital wants to talk about settling out of court and mediation. And I was like, oh, really?
Mm.
So anyway, long story short, when I was closing up my parents' estate, I was in my old hometown, and there was a popcorn wagon they used to take us to, or truck. And if you go on my website, the redpopcornwagon.com, there's a picture of the old truck. And I said, I'm going to do this and dedicate it to my mom and dad. So I found that wagon in upstate Wisconsin and bought it. It's a refurbished 1907 popcorn wagon. And then I bought the F-250 and had the custom built trailer to put the wagon in. And to build my retirement, I go to different festivals, art shows, concert nights, movie nights, and sell popcorn. So I've kind of gone full circle from the class of 80 popcorn fundraising.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
And then you can see down at the bottom there, it's been featured in 2 Netflix movies, Dolly Parton's Heartstrings and
No way.
Yeah. And if you see on the picture there, you can see the sign for the Sweet Magnolias Carnival, and there's the popcorn wagon. Yeah.
Wow. That is so awesome.
The picture of the kids is my brother Mark behind me, myself in the middle, and my little brother Jimmy in front of me. We're up at Harris Hill in Elmira, New York.
That is great.
Wow. That is so cool.
What a story.
Yeah. So I have fun doing it, and it makes people happy, and we have fun, and yeah. So
wow.
It looks like you're out a couple of times a month, or 3-4 times a month.
Yeah, usually every weekend. Last weekend I was 2 days at the Chastain Spring Arts Festival. This weekend I have a food truck night and a movie night. It's a private event at a school.
Gotcha.
And then you see there starts the concert nights. So
yeah. So are we talking just strictly popcorn?
Popcorn, roasted peanuts. I have the little round cups of ice cream with the wooden spoon. Yep. I have root beer barrels, those little one.
Oh, like hard candies.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I have I have old fashioned root beer and cream soda. And then I have modern, Coke and water, and then box candy for movie nights and stuff. But as much theme stuff as I can for the era of 1907.
Are the sodas cold?
That's a legitimate question.
If it's not, I want a refund for the ice that I bought.
Yes.
Another one, a lady asked me, she said, is this popcorn gluten-free? And I looked at her and I said, how do you get wheat into popcorn?
Yeah. Wow. But no caramel popcorn, huh?
Well, I can't make that in the
that's true
wagon because it makes a mess, but we have it separately bagged.
Okay.
Yeah, I have caramel and cheddar. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We'll put a link in the interview YouTube thing.
Okay. So yeah, it's a lot of fun and keeps me off the streets, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, well done, man. Well done.
Thanks.
That's a great memory. It's a great story.
It absolutely is. Absolutely is. Wow.
I think
good for you, man.
I think on the website there's a slide in the bottom that shows the plaque that I have. I put it on the back door of the wagon, and on the picture when I took it out of the frame, my mom gave it to me a long time ago. and in the bottom right corner, it says glamour shots. And I started cracking up. I was like, I'm so sure she dragged my father to glamour shots down the picture taken. Oh, so
Look at that. You even got a review teaser video on YouTube.
Oh, I'll
Yeah.
have to check that out.
There's a
Wow.
little link.
yeah.
Very cool.
Well, on that wonderful note, let's wrap this up, guys. And
Okay.
gosh, Steve, it's been so great talking to you, and thank you for putting up with our technical snafu and regaling us with these stories, man. It's been awesome.
Being gracious enough to grace us
Yeah.
again.
Well,
Yes,
it's, you
so
know,
cool.
just like our shenanigans back when we were in school, you know, one thing would go lead to another. I'm just so grateful. I don't want to sound like an old fart, but you know, being able to connect with people that we otherwise would have lost contact with is great having this technology. So
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
indeed.
yeah,
It's been fun to look people up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Yeah, we've had
stay
a good time doing this.
yeah, let's stay in touch and not let time pass so much now.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I look
All
forward
right,
to the
Steve.
final cut.
All right, we'll get on it, man. We'll get on it.
We'll get on
All
it.
right. Take care.
All right,
Thanks
Steve.
again,
Thanks,
Steve.
man.
It was
Take
great
care.
talking to you.
You're welcome. Good night. See you
All right.
soon.
Good night, guys.
Good night.